Hi guys, welcome back. So, you read the title, and now we're going to talk about it. A lot of people in my life don't know what I'm about to talk about, but this isn't really something I talk about. However, in the past year or so, a lot of these stories have been coming up, and they're very triggering. And that's not to be cute about it, and that's not to make it as if it's not important, but it's very hard to watch for me. The whole R. Kelly situation is very sensitive, and I don't think that people understand that. From what I've seen online with all the social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, is there are lots of people, some that are public figures, most of them aren't though, who are making jokes about it, right? That makes me very uncomfortable. Because you don't know how the other person feels when you're saying these things. When you are even blaming victims, right? Why now? Why are they doing this? Talking about how they're attacking, all the men in the world. And it's like, no, but at the same time, enough is enough. Women are looked at as objects, and they're not looked at as equals. They're looking at as something you can obtain. The things that women have to think about are not the things that men have to think about. And I'll give you an example. My dad drove up here he flew to Florida to drive up to Illinois with me, right? And we were taking turns driving, and we were going back and forth and doing all these different things. And he was like, hey, do you need gas? It's dark. It's like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And he was like, do we need to stop for gas? And I was like, yeah, but I want to wait till morning, because we were almost where we were supposed to stay. And he was like, well, and he just didn't understand that. And then I was watching a Netflix special, and I heard a comedian make a joke about how women send other women their locations when they go on Tinder dates, or when they go, when they meet someone for the first time. And men don't do that, right? So men don't wait till the daytime to get gas, because they're not fearful that something's going to happen to them at a gas station, right? And men don't think that women are going to attack them or kill them or rape them or violate them or cause some harm to them when they meet them on Tinder and they go out on a date with them, or they meet them on whatever social media site that they have and they meet up with them. The day-to-day things that I think about are not the day-to-day things that most people think about. And that's because things have happened to me that might not have happened to you. But with that, it's very disheartening to see that the people that are on my Facebook, and to see people on my timeline and all that kind of stuff, who are making jokes about rape, jokes about how R. Kelly, or defending R. Kelly, saying that he didn't do it, when it makes no sense as to why they would think that. Why is your instinct to assume that he didn't? And I've also seen a lot of people who are shaming victims and saying, well, they should have, what were they doing? What were they wearing? They went back to his house voluntarily. They did this voluntarily. And it becomes voluntarily until it's not. And I don't think people understand that. And that's great that a lot of these people on social media have never experienced anything like what's in the R. Kelly documentaries. They've never experienced sexual assault. They've never experienced rape. They've never experienced anything bad happening to them, to the point where you would say, you know what, it's not their fault. At the same time, though, something did happen to me 10 years ago. And I would say there's probably a handful of people in my life that actually know that. I was 16, and it was 10 days before my 17th birthday. And I was raped. That was hard because it wasn't just I didn't know them, I never saw them again situation. I knew who they are, I trusted them, and I had to live with them after the fact. So in that moment, I felt very helpless. I felt very helpless and I did not know what to do. And I had to survive. Because in what I was told is that if anyone found out, I would be homeless. I would be homeless, I'd have nowhere to live, and I'd have to go live with my dad in Denver. My senior year of high school, and I didn't want any of that to happen. So I kept my mouth shut. And I never said anything. And I never told anyone. Until I told a teacher. I told my dance teacher at the time. I told her, I wouldn't say assistant, I would say friend who helped every once in a while, right? Because she had a similar situation happen to her. And she was the only person out of adults that told me it wasn't my fault. And that got very hard because I had another teacher who was my favorite teacher, Miss Marucci. So Miss Marucci, if you're watching, favorite teacher, good for you. I'm sorry I never showed up to your class. I'm not that interested in books though. I went to her class and that was the topic. Sexual assault, all this kind of stuff. And there was a aide there, right? She wasn't a teacher. She wasn't an administrator. She was someone who was helping someone in the class. And she told me that any girl who gets raped brings it upon themselves because good girls don't get raped. Because good girls don't put themselves in that situation. And if you put yourself in a situation like that, then you're asking for it and now you're a tease. I was told that 3 months after that happened to me. That was very hard to deal with because for years I did not know how to process that and I thought that it was my fault. But I also didn't know what to do. And as soon as she told me that, I went into my teacher's office without permission and I started crying. And my best friend was in my class with me and she was able to go in there and calm me down, but I just lost it because I don't know how anyone could sit there and say how something so awful that could happen to someone is their fault. And so then I tried to rationalize how it was my fault. And that was even more difficult. And then once I got past that point, I knew that it wasn't me and it was him. And I won't be a victim forever. But now I see a lot of these comments, especially from women, saying that, well, they were asking for it. They knew what they were doing. He had money. Now they're just after money. And I think that everyone needs to know when something like that happens, that takes a large toll on you. Since that documentary has come out, the hotlines for sexual assault victims, their calls have gone up by 20%. So it's not just me that it's triggering, but it's also very hard to see. And that is exactly why I will not watch that documentary. Because I am trying to be positive and grow and be happy and to bring myself back to what some would say is a very low point in my life. Very hard. That's very hard. And I've seen people make jokes about it. And to me, it's very disgusting to make jokes about. To sit there and say that it didn't happen and those women are wrong and those women asked for it, and maybe if they weren't wearing something, all of those reasons are out the window. You want to know why? Because every single woman, if they're smart, is going to send your location to your friend if you meet someone on Tinder or a social media site for a date, right? Every woman is going to look at their surroundings before getting out at night to pump their gas. And if you don't, then maybe you should. Because things like that happen in everyday life, and that's what you try to prevent. But when it happens, it's not your fault. Because allowing something to happen and something forcing it upon you is completely different. So I think if my family watches this, they might be shocked. And I know that most people who watch this will probably be shocked. But I just want everyone to be mindful when they're watching this and mindful of what they're posting. Because probably a good 95% of you, if you watch this, had not a clue that any of this happened. Because I don't let that define me. Because I'm stronger today than I was 10 years ago. But at the same time, I was still a 16-year-old girl who thought she was safe. And that's the scary part, is you think that you're safe until you're not. And when you're not, you don't know what to do about it because it's different. It's different and it's hard. So if you watch those documentaries, if you don't watch the documentary, be mindful of what you're posting. And realize that just because you don't know that someone went through something doesn't mean that it doesn't affect them. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt. Because I've seen people who I know quite well post stuff like that, and it makes you look at yourself and go, well, do you think that about me? If you were to know, if you were to get all the details that those women are telling you, and if I do the same thing and give you all those details, are you going to tell me the same thing? That is a very hard pill to swallow, is to have people do that and judge you. And I'm not posting this to get sympathy. I'm not posting this for, people to feel bad for me and for me to seem like a victim, because that's not what this is. But I just want people to know that just because you think you know everything doesn't mean you know everything. And especially as women, you need to pay attention and be there for one another. This year is the year that we should be there for one another. And I don't know, if you guys have any problems with it, fight me. That's all I gotta say, because I don't agree with it, and I don't like it, and I don't like seeing it on my timeline. And I've had enough of the jokes and the memes and the comments that are nothing but tearing women down. And that's not what I'm about. It's not what I want to do. That's not how I want anyone who I associate myself with to represent themselves. So yeah, that's it. I will probably link down below the hotline. If anyone wants someone to talk to, it'll be there. You can like this, comment down below. Actually, you know what? If you made it till the end, comment a red heart emoji. That's what we're going to do. Comment a red heart for love. Love and happiness, and that's what we're going to spread, because we don't need any other men out here trying to take us down, right? So that's it. Serious moments, but it had to be said, and I hope you listened. So, thanks, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.